I want to tell you about a pattern that I've seen hundreds of times in my coaching practice that never ceases to break my heart. And the pattern is this: a woman whose body is clearly under an enormous amount of stress, and the solution that she wants is more restriction and more intense exercise. Welcome to your daily hit of grace and grit, your quick dose of inspiration to kickstart your day. I'm Courtney Townley, and here is today's hit. I'll tell you, I truly believe that this pattern is one of the things that really forced me to evolve as a coach, because there was a decade of my career where I did focus heavily on calorie reduction and intensifying exercise in order to help a woman reshape her physiology and calling that health. But what I realized is that deep health was not attained by adding more stress to an already stressed out system. And women not giving themselves the grace to pull back and really fix the areas of their life that needed fixing, I was not doing them really a service. I was getting them to focus on their body being the problem, which it was never the problem. And that's why I'm so passionate about that message today. Your body has never and will never be the problem. And look, I understand the instinct of a woman, being under a lot of stress and then having the desire to focus on more intense exercise and calorie cutting. The instinct comes from diet culture, right? Diet culture installed this in us. When things aren't working, push harder. But there is a physiological consequence that overrides that instinct. And once you really see it, or even unfortunately feel it, you will stop fighting your own biology, because the price you pay for that, it's just not worth it. So I have addressed the stress load of your life many times on this show. It, in formal terms, it's known as your allostatic load. And basically it refers to the cumulative wear and tear on the human body from chronic stress. I've also used the analogy of the bucket, how much stress is in your bucket at any given time, because the more stress you have, the more discerning you need to be about the measures you use to try to improve your health. Your body does not distinguish between sources of stress. That's important to know. A brutal workout, a brutal relationship, a brutal inner critic, a brutal hormonal transition, a brutal work situation, all of it goes into the same physiological bucket, okay? Your body is contending with all of those stressors. It's not rating them, it's not categorizing them in some way. It's really just experiencing the load of all of that. And like I said before, and like we talked about yesterday, when the bucket is full, your allostatic load is high. And adding more exercise and more calorie restriction really ultimately adds more stress to a system that is already flooded with it. So absolutely, under the right conditions, calorie restriction and intense exercise could be really good stressors. They could actually help to grow and make a human more resilient. But you put those same stressors onto a human that is already drowning in stress, and they're no longer good stressors. They become distressors. And the result is biological breakdown. You basically have increased inflammation, disrupted sleep, hormonal dysregulation, and often weight retention, which is the opposite of what you're looking for. So of course, under these circumstances, your body is not in any way failing you. It's protecting you from what it perceives as a threat. too much stress, too fast, with not enough capacity or room in the bucket to support it. And this is especially true, of course, I say this all the time, but at midlife. Dr. Lisa Mosconi, if you're not familiar with her work, you definitely should be. She's written several books on the brain, especially the midlife woman's brain. The XX Brain, I believe, was her first book in that field. And then her second one, I'm looking at my bookshelf right now because I know I have it, but I can't think of the title. Phenomenal books, definitely one to know. But it's The Menopause Brain, of course, is her second book. So in The Menopause Brain, in that book, she talks about research that shows hormonal transition itself fundamentally changing how the brain responds to stress. Women navigate perimenopause and menopause, or navigating those phases of their life, perimenopause and menopause, have less hormonal buffer against the stress response than they did 10 years ago. So what felt manageable at 35 can genuinely feel unsustainable and intolerable at 48. Not because you got weaker, but because your biology changed. Again, going back to our image of the stress bucket, not only has the bucket gotten fuller, but often the resilience of the bucket itself is starting to fade, right? Because with the absence of estrogen and progesterone, the bucket can't carry the weight that it once did, that weight being your stress load. So oftentimes, the most radical health act is not necessarily adding something more, like more aggressive exercise or calorie restriction, but it's removing something. It's reducing the unnecessary stressors that are filling your bucket so your body can actually support it and have capacity for healing. More is not always better, certainly not in the case of stress. So, where in your life can you start removing some unnecessary stressors to give your body a little bit more capacity to support you? If this stirred something inside of you, imagine what a whole book of clarity and courage could ignite. The Consistency Code, a midlife woman's guide to deep health and happiness, goes even deeper into the mindset and practices that create real, meaningful change at midlife. Grab your copy today over at theconsistencycode.com and keep the momentum alive.